Welcome, Juventini, to the All Juvecast, and this is another live at 5 pre-match. And today for Juventus Lazio, and joining me is Antonio and Jonathan Grade. And how are you guys doing this morning?
I'm good, Al. I'm good.
Excellent. Jonathan, I know you're joining us from a different setting now, and masks are required, and that's why Jonathan is wearing a mask, obviously. But how are you doing today, Jonathan?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm not. Yeah, I'm at work today, and we've been told that some have to wear a mask wherever you are in this current time we live in. So, if you can forgive the mask, I will offer some pearls of wisdom and memories from Juventus, and we'll. You can hear me, so
There,
I just
there
don't
you
look
go.
great.
That's the main thing. We can see you and we can hear you. And thanks again for joining, Jonathan. And real quick before we get going, and thank you everybody who's already joined the live. But obviously, support the pod, support the channel. Check out stripedheartsapparel.com. A lot of cool new designs out there, and there's some special deals out as well. The other thing is. I know she's recovering right now, resting up due to the COVID situation. Our family's not able to visit, but my mother is having some issues this week. She's had surgery yesterday. It went successful. I just want to let her know because she will be tuning in, I'm sure, once she wakes up. She loves watching the show. I just want to let her know that we all love her. We're thinking of you. We can't wait to have you home recovering, and we will all come visit you and see you. Lennon sends a big hug and kiss as well. Okay. Yeah, this one's going to be dedicated to her, and I'm happy to get going with this. This Lazio, it's going to be a big, big match. And of course, surrounding Juventus, there's always a lot to discuss. And yes, Jonathan mentioned the stories he's going to bring up. And of course, Jonathan has a great book based off a show that he used to be a part of. And Jonathan, I'll give you a little bit of time to tell the folks about this book.
Yeah, thanks so much, and Antonio, and Alberto. Yeah, so basically, the book's all about an iconic time in the '90s in Serie A. And it was a very famous show in the UK. It's called Gazzetta Football Italia, and we had live Football Italia shows every Sunday. And it created a new dimension for a lot of football fans because there was no live football on terrestrial television. So we brought what was then the greatest league in the world by quite some distance into living rooms free of charge. And from then the show just took off. We had a magazine style show called Gazzetta on a Saturday morning, which was sort of the start of the footballing weekend for so many fans. And so I wrote a book sort of talking about the era as well as working on the show. Scolazzo Football Italia Years on Amazon. So if you didn't, even if you weren't living in the United Kingdom, it'll bring back a lot of memories of a great era. So yeah, so I wrote the book. So I hope you all buy it. I hope you all enjoy it.
There you go. There you go. So everybody check out the book. Pick it up, and I'm sure it's going to be full. Those were incredible years for Juventus and Serie A as a whole. So be sure to pick that up and check it out. Now, on to the business ahead of us. We'll kick it off with what? Bentancur testing positive for COVID. He was asymptomatic. But that took a little bit of a turn for the midfield and how we were going to line things up, making things interesting. It also kind of made everybody nervous about should another player pick up COVID. So kind of everybody's eyes are wide open here following the situation and seeing we have a bit of a rough guideline as to what we're going to see in this one for the lineup. And number one, I was shocked to see a lot of just sometimes social media is just so toxic, when you have people thankful because this would mean Bentancur is out of the lineup. And that's just shocking. Just shocking stuff to see, especially Bentancur was great in his last match. He did a fantastic job. he's doing a job he's not asked. He shouldn't be required or asked to do. But of course, we're filling in the gaps because we have so many injuries. And that list, okay, that list is wild. It's starting to get a bit better. Cuadrado is expected to be in the lineup. He will be coming back. Bonucci should be on the team list, probably not getting minutes. So that's good. Chiellini, good chance he'll be back for Porto or at least on the team list for them. So that's great. De Ligt apparently is able to play against Lazio, but they would rather not. I think it was pending Bonucci status. Okay, but yeah, the list is getting somewhat better. The shouts are still out there for Fagioli. To be honest, this is a tough one. Again, one of those matches I'm torn on it, to be honest with you, because he does have a skill set, some traits that we could probably really, really use, especially if the projected pivot is going to be McKennie and Rabiot. However, you're playing Lazio, who plays us very, very tough, and they flood the midfield. They stack their midfield right across with 5. It's going to be an interesting one. So I'm going to leave it open to you guys to what you think in terms of the lineup. If we go with the projected one, the one I seen the most still has De Ligt not in there, which has Danilo, Demiral, Cuadrado, and Sandro across the back. Chiesa, McKennie, Rabiot, Bernardeschi across the middle with Kulusevski and Ronaldo up top. Morata also continuing on with his complications in getting fit to start. So let's kick it off with how we would feel about Fagioli. Is this a game for Fagioli? I don't think it is. That's my personal opinion. Let's kick it off with Antonio. What do you think about this?
Just before I start, Alberto, best wishes to your mum. I hope she gets better soon. Speedy recovery. We spoke about this off air just when we were waiting on Jonathan getting set up there. I mean, there is an argument for Fagioli to start, and I completely understand and see both sides of both sides of possibly starting or not starting. Me personally, I wouldn't start him in this one. I just think it's a big step up. Lazio predominantly play through the middle of the park. Milinkovic-Savic, Luis Alberto, Lucas Leiva. If they're on their day, they've got the potential there to obviously dominate a midfield and control a game. So I think it's. I mean, if the guy makes one mistake, he'll get crucified, and that's just the Italian mentality, unfortunately. So I think it's a kind of no-brainer to go with McKennie and Rabiot, give you a bit of experience. The only issue I've got of the 4-4-2 is McKennie's discipline, because obviously he's always looking to make those forward runs. That doesn't come from Pirlo, that just comes off his own initiative. So on a two-man pivot, I don't think that's always the case. I think you need to be a wee bit more disciplined. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, you bet. And Georg coming in saying that he thinks Fagioli should come into the 11 post Porto, and I think I tend to agree that these next two, Lazio and Porto, I don't think I'd be going the Fagioli route there. Jonathan, your thoughts on Fagioli? Your thoughts on this being a match a lot of fans seem to be shouting for, but I can't agree at this moment in time. But how do you feel?
Yeah, best wishes to your mum as well, Alberto.
Much appreciated, Jonathan and Antonio.
I don't think this is a game to be trying things out. I think you want a tried and tested. I know there's lots of players out. This weekend could be Juventus' one of their last opportunities to get back into this title race. Inter playing Atalanta on Sunday. They could easily drop points there. And yes, there's a game in hand. Yes, Inter still have to come to Turin. But that's the penultimate round of the season, so it could all be over by then. I think Fagioli's this is not the game for him. I know he's obviously thinking about the Porto game as well, but this is a crucial game for the club, because if they don't beat Lazio, to all intents and purposes, I think that could be it for this season in the league. And it's a very tough game. Lazio are incredibly strong. And the team lineup's been suggested. I would obviously love to see De Ligt in there at the back, but if he's not 100%, I'm not sure I'm with Pirlo's idea of sort of if players aren't 100%, or if he's not quite sure to prioritize Porto. I don't think they should be prioritizing Porto, because I think you look at the Juve midfield that they have currently, that midfield really is not going to be a strong enough midfield to win you the Champions League, in my opinion, this year. So surely the equal priority should be the league, and putting out as strong a side as he can tonight. With the Porto game coming up, this is as big a game for the club tonight. Win tonight, you go within 7 of Inter, and Inter Atalanta, heaven knows what might happen. Atalanta could go there and win. They beat Milan 3-0 at the San Siro. So I think he should be putting the strongest side that he can. But if Bonucci can only play an hour, or De Ligt can only play an hour, put them out from the start, and then you've got the experience, the strength at the back. I don't think this is a game to be sort of umming and ahhing, because I think if he doesn't have his strongest side out there, that could be it.
Yeah. And this is kind of where, and I'm glad somebody brought it up, actually, Michael coming in here, saying if Fagioli plays terrible, we will defend him. But he doesn't think an injured McKennie will solve anything against Lazio. And this is an interesting point too, because we know McKennie has been battling this nagging hip injury. And we know that we have several guys that have been playing not at 100%. That's part of the game. I actually got into a discussion yesterday as I asked this poll question as Artur gets closer to potentially playing. But it was stated he would not be at 100% should he make the match versus Porto. So he'd probably somewhere be around the 80% mark. And I put up a poll question on Twitter, and it was basically, if he's not 100%, but could still play, is still able to play. Because there's a difference between, being injured and physically unfit. If people think that there's always guys out there, that the lineup that's out there is always a full 100%, you're wrong. It's next to impossible to field a team. It just doesn't happen. There's always knocks. There's always nagging little things that go on, and guys play through it. So the argument became someone coming at me saying that no, if he is unfit, nobody that is unfit should be playing in the lineup. And I said that's simply unrealistic. It's an unrealistic way to think, because it's just part of the game. It's natural. One guy at 80% could still give you more than another at 100% based on the player's traits, abilities, and qualities. Artur is one of those guys. McKennie now, this is an interesting one in terms of Fagioli going in there or McKennie. So McKennie came to us from Schalke, where he played as one of the two in the middle. He can do it. Antonio brings up a great point about the discipline. He's been playing with us where he's had that freedom to go up. It's going to be an interesting shift. Again, in a midfield of Rabiot, McKennie, I would imagine Rabiot becomes the one who drops back to kind of control. And again, that has questions in it of its own. But an injured McKennie, I think, honestly, we have to be realistic about this. And the options, we just played a match where he was literally the only option coming off the bench. It was all U23s. I think, again, in this one, if he's able to play, you play him and you put him in there. That's my opinion. Guys, how do you think? Let's go with Jonathan. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, that whole point you're making about player at 60% playing, as opposed to a player maybe of lesser quality who's 100% fit. I was just thinking while you were talking just then, which is a stronger side, Lazio or Porto? And I would say Lazio are a stronger side, a tougher side to play against. So why would you not play the strongest side you could if you've got Bonucci who could play, you've got De Ligt who could play. This on paper, this is a harder game than the game against Porto. We don't know how the game against Porto will pan out, but I think even if they concede, Juve are good enough to score 3 goals past Porto, because Porto are, in the end, badly as Juventus played, they should have got a draw out of that. But I think obviously Lazio are a stronger side, so I honestly, I would go with the best side you have available. Bonucci or De Ligt really should be starting, in my opinion, as opposed to the setup we got back. I mean, you're up against one of the league's top strikers in Ciro Immobile tonight, who, let's forget, probably likes playing against Juventus with his Torino past. So I think he should seriously consider playing Bonucci's league. I'm sure he's got the side in his head, but I think it might be a mistake not fielding one of the two, because Lazio got goals all over the field, and particularly Immobile, who is the threat.
Yeah, it's a tough one. This is a tough one. You're running the risk of injuring someone furthermore. Making it prolonging the nagging injury, but not only that, making it worse and losing him for a longer period of time. But you're in a race. They're going at it. They're going to be going for it. It is what it is. I kind of agree in terms of prioritizing. I think you treat them both the same, and I think you go with as strong as you can possibly. But definitely, if you had guys that are part of your strongest 11 that are able to go against Lazio, even if they can give you an hour, I think you do it, and you go for this one. It's interesting. Bernardeschi is a guy I want to talk about, and I saw a comment come in, AJ just appreciating the fact that he's always available. We wanted to talk a bit about the shout that a lot of fans are making towards the 4-3-3, okay, and going that route. Bernardeschi, for me, is going to be key for Pirlo, for this Juventus, and whatnot. In this particular match, regardless of the pivots and whatnot, Bernardeschi is going to be that guy that's going to be able to keep Chiesa on the wing he is strongest, which is the right side. With Cuadrado coming back, this should eliminate Chiesa also having to waste so much more energy in the defensive phase, like we've seen in these past true 3-5-2s. So even if it lines up as a 4-4-2 on paper, whatnot, Chiesa with Cuadrado behind him easily slots in and gives you that same range of attack as if a 4-3-3 was being played out. The difference is, if we go 4-3-3, you're going to be asking your midfielders to support, and it's something that's been a sore spot for this club for quite some time, and we know that, and you don't have those driving forces out of the midfield. Keeping it in this 4-4-2, that kind of shifts hybrid, especially with Bernardeschi on the left. We know Sandro. I actually think Sandro is better at staying as one of those center backs and using Bernardeschi, who's easily got enough in the tank to bomb, up and down that flank. This actually makes the most sense. We may not agree with the two pivots in there being the best, which I don't think they are the best options, but I think it'll be enough to get by. But Bernardeschi is actually going to be key, in my opinion, because it's going to help us get the best out of Chiesa and stop kind of underutilizing him in a sense. So I think that's going to be key. So while we're hung up on this 4-3-3 shape or whatnot, it doesn't truly matter because it ends up playing out the same. And Bernardeschi, whether it's Bernardeschi or Ramsey out on that side, it plays out essentially to a 4-3-3, almost with that extra support there. And you still have Cuadrado assisting in creation and whatnot. And I think that's been a key that's been missing for Juventus is, while he frustrates the hell out of me sometimes, Cuadrado has been crucial in terms of creation. So these are a couple big things that I'm looking at. So I'm not getting hung up on this 4-3-3 because this shape actually does make sense with what Pirlo's doing and the players we have. If we go true 4-3-3 and we want to be like these other certain clubs in Europe, we do not have the fullbacks to do it in a true 4-3-3 style, if you're asking me my personal opinion.
Yeah.
What do you guys think in terms of that, the 4-3-3? Do you see Bernardeschi and Key and Cuadrado? Antonio, what do you think?
I think when you see the 4-4-2, obviously keeping in mind the state we're in just now with injuries, and obviously it's a congested fixture list. We're playing almost every 3 days. There's very limited recovery time. There's very limited time where you can try something in training, but that's been the case from way back at the start, obviously due to COVID. But I think when you look at the team on paper, a 4-4-2 should give you balance. You touched on Alberto. Bernardeschi and Chiesa, especially Chiesa, he's much more effective from the right-hand side. I always make the example when we cast our mind back to the Milan game when he absolutely terrorised Theo Hernandez. I mean, he gave him, I think he's still seeing him in his dreams, to be honest with you. So keeping Bernardeschi on the left and Chiesa on the right gives you balance. I think sometimes we can all get caught up in strategies and formations, and I mean they are important. But if you're fortunate, I've played the game at a decent level, and I appreciate during the game there's sometimes a lot of formation shifts. It's down to application. It's down to winning those small battles across the pitch. That's why I think McKennie, as Jonathan says, is very important from the start, because McKennie and Rabiot against Leva and Milinkovic-Savic, it's a physical battle. It's winning those small battles across the pitch that sometimes, 9 times out of 10, could win you a game. So I think sometimes we get too caught up in formations. It's about application and how you approach a game, where I think this year we've been found wanting sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Jonathan, how do you feel in terms of these fans making these shouts for this formation? And, what do you feel about the Bernardeschi and Cuadrado impact?
I was just listening to what Antonio was saying there, and I think he's bang on, actually. I think the modern way is to get obsessed with formations and it's about players playing their natural role, and the balance of the side with Bernardeschi on the left and Chiesa outright wide on the right is much more balanced. I think obviously then we got the issue when he's fit. Where does Dybala fit into all of this? But that's another story.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think Chiesa. Talking about him for a moment, I think he's been one of the. Probably for me, even though he came later in the season, he's been like the star for the club. He's just literally hit the ground running straight away, and he's obviously one of the first names on the team sheet every week for Pirlo. Cuadrado being back's a massive boost, but I think you just got to play players in their natural positions and where they're comfortable, and not think too technically sometimes. If a player goes out there and knows his role for the side, and as Antonio said, winning their battle, I think that's players don't need complications. They want to go out in that field, know what their particular role is, and I think if you're forever changing system, forever changing formation, it's the modern way. But I think simple instructions for players is what they need, and their specific role in the side. And I just think we are sort of getting obsessed with the whole shape of formations, and it's players know what they have to do to win the game, and I think sometimes they like it being kept as simple as possible.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's the best way to put it. Is we get so caught up in these shapes, these formations and whatnot, but ultimately it just comes down to putting your players in the best possible position to succeed and to excel. And that's why, when we think about the 3-5-2, and how Chiesa was used in that particular match, especially against Verona there, I thought, my God, he is being a thorn in their side every time he's up top. You need to just get him there all the time, consistently. For me, that was a situation where Pirlo didn't react quick enough to getting him up there more frequently. And it had nothing to do with formation, only in the sense that he was out wide on the wing, and it would have just taken one simple switch. Out of 5 subs you're possible, would have been one quick switch, and he would have been in a position where he could have kept on the throttle on those guys. So yeah, we could talk about 4-3-3, you could talk about 4-4-2, you could talk about anything. It just comes down to putting in your guys, lining them up in matchups that they can exploit, and getting them to do that. And this is why, even when you talk about the midfield, McKennie, it makes sense to have him in there, because of the battles that's going to take place in the midfield, like Antonio said. So yeah, I'm not there right now. I'm not talking about this switch, the 4-3-3. I don't know. It also, when we start getting into those changes, it changes those roles that these players have started to become accustomed to under Pirlo. You're starting to ask them a different thing. And again, I kind of touched on it loosely there with the midfield. You're starting to ask guys in a 4-3-3, they have to support far more than they have been. I still think it's a part of our game. It's not something that is easier in a 4-3-3, but our actual setup that we have now should be allowing these guys to do that more frequently. And when we do, it actually works out great. If you think about the times Rabiot does fully commit and move forward, he gets into the right space, into the right area. The end product is sometimes lacked, but it works. We know McKennie can attack over there. I think we need to sometimes commit a little bit more to the attack. Sure, the profiles of the players we have in the midfield aren't ideal for that particular style and whatnot, but I have faith that's going to be addressed in the coming Mercato. Now, this matchup as a whole, I'm going to ask a quick little trivia for everybody that's joined us live. You guys, who's the top goal scorer in the history of this fixture, Juventus versus Lazio? In all the history of this matchup, 184 times Juventus have won. 43 times it's ended in draw, and 46 times Lazio has ended up getting the result. But we'll get to the leading goal scorer in the history of the fixture in a little bit. I know Jonathan has some great stories he wants to share in regards to this. And Jonathan, I'll leave it to you to take us back in time.
Well, you can read all about it in the book, obviously. Take you back 21 years to the 99-2000 season, and Carlo Ancelotti as Juventus manager, who coached the side. It was his first full season, and he was very unpopular in Turin. He took over from Lippi, and he was seen with his links with Milan and Roma. He was never really accepted. But that season, 1999-2000 season, the side went on a 22 match unbeaten run, and after they won the Turin derby with 8 games to go, they were 9 points clear, and everyone thought it's a done deal. There's no chance Lazio could get back into it, who were 9 points back. The following week, Juventus lost to AC Milan, and Lazio won the Rome derby, which meant the gap was 6. And then the week after that, I actually had the privilege of going, and we managed to get press passes. So I went to Turin for the big Juventus Lazio game, and it was, you can imagine, a real sort of nail biting on the edge. Neither side too committed to going forwards too much, and Juve, being 6 points ahead, were like more and more content to take a point, and that would maintain their position. And then, sort of on the hour, Ciro Ferrara got sent off for a second booking, and then a minute later, Simeone scored for Lazio, and they moved to within 3 points, which stayed pretty much that until 3 rounds from the end, when Juve lost at Verona. And they, in the end, they scraped a win over Parma the penultimate day, or the day they could have won the league, and then obviously the final day, it went to Perugia in that famous storm. And actually, I was reading about it, and they lost the title already there some years before on the last day by losing to Perugia. And as you may have seen back in the day, there was a monumental storm at half time in the Perugia game, and the half time was well over an hour, and we were on air with the show, and the whole point of it being in tandem, the Lazio and the Juventus game. So Lazio were in Rome in the glorious sunshine, waiting to kick off again. They were beating Regina 3-0. So that game was over, and that effectively put Lazio joint top level with Juventus, because Juve were drawing, and there would have been a head-to-head playoff if they'd been level. And then finally the match resumed. It was like farcical conditions. There was water everywhere. It was unplayable. And then Perugia scored, and then Juve couldn't get back into it. And somehow Lazio won the league, and it was very tragic. And then sort of that was pretty. Although Ancelotti lasted another season, it sort of felt the way it all turned out that he was destined never to win in Turin, and it was an astonishing end to the season, and it was not a happy one, sadly. But 2 years later, the title they lost, they won on the final day when Inter collapsed at Lazio. So these things go around in circles.
There you go, and everybody remembers that Cinque Maggio for sure. And yeah, the Perugia one, holy shit! Colin coming in here saying Colina should have stopped the match. Antonio, you remember the Perugia debacle?
Yeah, sorry guys, I think you noticed.
Oh, we lost him. Okay. He'll be getting back in there. Antonio's having some technical difficulties, but yeah, that Perugia one.
While he's off, I just saw that message about the pitch was unplayable. There was a bit of context to it. I'm going to answer that in a minute.
Okay.
There's a bit of context to it because the week before Juventus had played Lazio, and Del Piero had scored his first goal from open play since his horrendous knee injury. And he came and scored that goal. And then the last minute, Cannavaro had a header for Parma, which went in. And it was disallowed. And there was, you can imagine the outcry in the weeks between the match. And we got to half time, and there's a storm in Perugia, and Colina knew that the game wasn't playable. It was farcical. But he knew that if he called it off, there would have been the mother of all arguments and recriminations, and that's why he played the game. And you saw, I mean, it was just water everywhere. It was completely unplayable. In response to C Power, I have a question. Where can Juventini see the library of Gazzetta episodes? There are some Gazzetta episodes. If you go on YouTube, James Richardson, the presenter, if you go to Jimbo Vision, Jimbo Vision, he has a whole library of old episodes. So there's obviously not a huge amount, but there's some very, very memorable. We did an interview with Gianluca Vialli, and he did some joke sketch when he was wearing a wig, and there's all sorts of funny stuff. So and also if you just search on YouTube, Gazzetta Football Italia, some shows come up. So it's if people want to see them, there are still some episodes available to watch.
Well, that's great. That's great that they can still track those down. That's awesome. The Perugia one was, it was an absolute just mess, just absolute mess. I don't think anybody needs to go back and check that one out by any means, but you can at least still find the clips, the reel on YouTube for sure, and you could see what we're speaking to. And yeah, it was absolute shambles. Antonio, you make back. I was asking you before we were having some difficulties there with Perugia. Do you happen to remember that absolute shit show there?
Yeah, that's unfortunately scarred in the memory. Sorry, apologies, guys. I'm having some serious issues.
No problem.
Jonathan, I really wanted to hear that take that you had there, because thanks to your show, that's the reason I'm a passionate Juventus fan. Obviously, being over in the UK, I still remember some great times I shared with my dad watching the games, and it was a good time to be an Italian in the 90s because everybody wanted to be your friend over here, you know. So,
No, it was
unfortunately, as I say, the Perugia game was it was a horrible memory. But Gazzetta Football Italia gave me so many good memories. I still get goosebumps when I remember the theme tune on a Saturday and a Sunday.
Yeah, no, for me it was it was a first job, and it was an absolute dream job as a football fan, and it was Juve's own fault. They should have done more training in the summer. Okay.
Yeah.
But no, it was you know what, it was such a golden era, and it was so far and away the best league in the world. All these top players were there, and it was just it was just a magical time, and it was so nice to be able to bring such great football to people and not have to pay subscriptions. It was a golden time. I'm glad you enjoyed the shows.
I did. It was good. It would be nice. A little reunion wouldn't go amiss, in my opinion.
I know.
There you go. There you go. Now, speaking of memories, we went through Perugia, then we went through the flip side, which was Cinque Maggio, and obviously Inter losing there to Lazio, and then that assisting Juventus in the Scudetto victory that season. We have Lichtsteiner yesterday speaking in terms of Juventus and whatnot, and then of course the memories come back, and then we have the Del Piero's final season, and then him scoring that free kick against Lazio, which was crucial in the Scudetto, that one that started this entire dynasty, really. Started the cycle there with Conte. And I'm going to ask everybody that's joined us live to type in your favorite moment from Juventus Lazio, this fixture historically, and that one's obviously etched in our memories because it's not too far off. That was a great moment. I could think of plenty more, but I want to ask you guys some of your best memories with this particular fixture, and Antonio, I'll let you kick us off with your favorite memory of this match, Juventus versus Lazio.
My favourite memory is easy, Alberto. Thanks to this chap, Jonathan, his fantastic broadcasting team brought the Juventus Lazio game. I can't remember what year, I can't recall it precisely, but it was a game where Del Piero went by two players in Rome and made a blue jersey on with the yellow stars on the sleeves, and he curled one in a la Del Piero from the edge of the box. I can also remember watching that game at night. I think it was a Sunday night or a Saturday night.
It was 94-95 season. It was the week after Del Piero's volley against Fiorentina.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
that was his when he announced himself, and then the following week he scored that incredible goal. That's
when a star was born for me. So that 100% that game for me.
Yeah, and then Antonio probably took to the pitch the next day trying to imitate that 1,000 times, probably.
Absolutely.
I saw it actually. I was on the Gazzetta dello Sport website yesterday, and I saw it. I was looking at their previews of this game, and there was a video clip of that goal, and it's insane. I mean, just the way he beat all this, cut inside the defenders, and that trademark cut in top right corner, classic goal of his. I would say for me, obviously that was a memorable time. I think possibly it was the end of the 93-94 season. It sort of was the start of this incredible era for Juve. Although Trapattoni was still coach, it was just before Lippi came in, and they'd lost about one game in 19 at the end of that season. It was that when their momentum really started, and there was a game right at the end of the season in Turin, and Gianluca Vialli scored a hat trick, but the final goal came from Roberto Baggio, and he went through, beat about 5 men, and then was on the edge of the box and cut a shot into the bottom left corner, and they won 6-1 that day. And it was just like it was a real poignant moment that you knew that Juventus were becoming a major force again after this golden Milan era. It was just an annihilation, and Baggio was just, classic. Beat us, just go past everyone, beat three, and just keep going, and then drilled in the most perfect finish into the opposite corner of the goal, and it was just that was a magical game, and it was just phenomenal the goal scoring that day.
That's great. Now, mine was used by Antonio, which was that goal from Del Piero, but that's okay because I'm going to go to the goal most that's recent, which was crucial again to our race, and that was Paulo Dybala in that goal where literally gets the ball, skins the defenders. Barolo is literally all over him, and he fights through and he buries that goal. Just such a clutch moment. Absolutely huge. It was just it was great. I remember being so frustrated in that match. So frustrated. And then there's that piece of magic from our Jewel, and that was a great one, huge. But the Del Piero one stood out to me for sure. Number one, I love those kits, and that's another thing about the 90s. We want to talk about 90s. The kits were absolutely phenomenal.
The few collection
across the 90s, and there's some sites that specialize in just making replicas from that era because they were all iconic. When you talk about that time, all of them, Fiorentina, Milan, Juve,
Parma.
like just Parma had some beautiful kits. Like they're all just iconic, and that was one of my favorite parts. And even now, looking back at them and whatnot, and I've got quite a healthy collection, as everybody knows, when it comes to Juventus jerseys and whatnot. And by all means, I wouldn't even mind adding some of these other ones, Parma and whatnot. But the kits were absolutely beautiful. AJ coming in with Dybala's goal as well. Colin saying, yes, Dybala's goal was clutch. It's so many great moments, but all the ones we touched on definitely stand out. Now
there was actually one more I was going to bring in. I'm sorry.
Let's go. Let's do it
again.
Let's
99. You may recall my least favorite kit was it had red numbers on the back.
I remember that.
That season when it all sort of fell apart, they played in Rome, and Juventus won 3-1.
Thierry Henry.
And I was going to say Thierry Henry scored 2, and that was the game that probably cost Lazio the league the year before they won it. And he scored 2 goals in that game, and that was a horrible kit though. That was the worst. The red numbers were awful.
I would have to. Are we talking worst kit from the 90s or worst kit for Juve? Period.
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 There was another
even over the half and half, Jonathan.
I hated that kit in '99. The half and half. No, that was pretty trash. And I'll tell you another bugbear of mine is they've started wearing their away kit at home.
Yeah.
In some, what's all that about?
The one that sticks out for me, guys, is the one quite recent to the one that Jonathan had mentioned. It had Chow Webb as the mate. Can you remember that one?
Yeah.
That was absolutely awful, and the grey away top that year as well.
Oh no, I remember
it was
that great.
It was just wrong. But going back to just piggybacking off of what Jonathan said, Thierry Henry for me was the biggest disappointment for ever, as far back as I can remember being a Juve fan. They just came at the wrong possible time. Ancelotti was the manager, if I remember. Thierry Henry was number 6. He was getting played as a left wing back some games.
Yeah.
And then he went on to Arsenal to become the monster he was. So, biggest disappointment ever.
My mate is a huge Arsenal fan.
Yeah.
It was Thierry Henry, and I'd seen him play for Juventus, and he said, "What's this Thierry Henry like?"
Laughing.
I said he's terrible. He's rubbish. Because he had been.
I take it back.
I know. That was a good prediction.
Oh man, that is funny. That is funny. So and now we're opening up kit talk here, and he says, I know it's unpopular. AJ actually liked the half and half, and he hated the 2011-12 with those fuzzy spray type stripes. The 2011-12, I think it just holds the memory of what started. It was the first Scudetto after, of course, Calciopoli and all that nonsense and the 7 years it took to get back on top. I think it just holds on to that, so it's kind of got a place in everybody's heart. But yeah, I think it's a little bit lower on the scale, but the half and half for me.
Yeah, it was wrong.
That's just
wrong.
You know,
I have to say I'm not a fan of this year's kit particularly with the stripes. And Inter have done the same with their stripes. It's just what's going on.
I don't mind it, I should say, but it's not my favorite. I do prefer the clean stripe look, and it's nice to see that the leaks are coming out now for next season's kit, and we can all be happy because the true classic stripes are coming back. The leaks that are out there aren't 100%. There are some alterations that I know and some fine details that are going to be on there that they're not actually showing, and that's because they're just doing a representation of the knowledge that they have, but it's going to be a sharp kit. The away kit, that leak, also not 100%, but it's very, very close. But it's good stuff. It's going to be good kits. The only one that's going to be off is that third kit, that blue and yellow one. I know that's been kind of spotted around. There's going to be a strange one. But kit talks, we got to get out of that because I could talk all day about Juve kits and whatnot. But that was good times. The match at hand, okay, Juventus Lazio today. Let's start getting into this a little bit more thorough and see how we actually feel about what's going to happen. And I want to hear everyone that's live too, if they have some type of prediction or whatnot, they could put their predictions in there now, get them in there. We're going to start going around here, this panel, and see how we feel the game will play out and what we think a potential scoreline could possibly be. And let's go with Antonio kicking us off. How do you feel this game's going to go? What do you think is going to happen?
It's $1 million question, Alberto. It just depends. I've said it all year, possibly. It just depends what Juventus go on the pitch. Team, regardless if it's Bernardeschi and Chiesa, if it's Ramsey on the left instead of Bernardeschi, I think irrespective of the personnel, I still think we'll have a strong enough side to beat Lazio. But as we touched on before, it's approach, it's just how you apply yourself on the pitch. You need to want it more because we need to remember Lazio, as most teams in Serie A, when they play Juventus, it's like a final for them. They play the game of their lives. Lazio are coming off a back. I mean, I watched the game live last week. They came off a bad result against Bologna. I think that was the last game they played, wasn't it? It was a Bologna game. There's not been any games in between, so they'll be trying. Obviously, they're going to try their best, but very rarely these kind of sides slip up twice. They have got quality, but I can see us sneaking it. I said that to you off before we went live. I can see us sneaking it maybe 2-1, 1-0, because the lifelines are finished. It's do or die now. There's no more lifelines. I'm afraid we've used them all up. So I think we'll get the win, but we'll see.
Yeah, Jonathan, your thoughts?
Well, as you know, Alberto, after my prediction for Crotone, not only with scoreline but goal times, was pretty much pretty good. So, but I'm sort of thinking, Antonio, I don't know. I do think it might be a draw tonight. I don't know. I'm not convinced. But hopefully, I think 2-1's a good shout. It was 2-1 last year, but don't shoot the messenger. But I think 1-1 tonight. The side's not at the level as previous years, and I just feel like they're not. It's not. It doesn't feel like the year they're going to win the league. It just has that feel they're playing.
Absolutely.
There's no conviction, and they're missing all these players. I'm going to say 1-1, unfortunately, but we'll see.
You know, missing players and not 100%, even some that are in there.
Yeah.
You know, Jonathan, continue on. You were still going there. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, I sort of, I don't know if you guys agree. I feel like this season's been not a season too far for this team, but it's never really felt they were in this title race. It's always felt that they've just been a step behind everyone else. Obviously,
Yeah.
Inter now look favourites to win it, but it just feels there's no sort of, you don't sense there's ever been a real surge of momentum. They had that good spell at the start of the year, but
Consistency,
then
yeah.
that Inter game was a disaster, and it doesn't feel that convincing. I think they're missing. You look at last week's game, for example, the Verona game. They got the goal and then they just sat back and invited Verona onto them. In years gone by, you got Bonucci and Chiellini, then that's fine.
Okay.
But you haven't got them out there, and that goal was coming, and then they just, I don't know, it just didn't.
Yeah.
It just feels like it's an era that's going, and they're just going to have to, create a new side that will dominate. But I don't think, in the general scheme of things, not winning the league this year is going to be catastrophic, because I think it will make them all hungrier. And it sort of felt like last year they were sort of cruising a bit, and this year it hasn't gone for them. But I'm sure if they don't win the league this year, they'll bounce back very strongly next year.
Yeah, I think like at the start of the year, my feelings were they need to just stay in the mix. They just need to kind of hang out there, because we knew it was going to take time. You had no preseason. You got a bunch of new players coming in. You just gotta find what's going to work, what shape, every player's role, where they're going to be utilized best. So I was like, just kind of hang in there, and he did that. And I thought, if Pirlo could have this team kind of there, just close enough there where you're in striking distance, if he eventually gets it right, and you go on that run, that's going to be the make or break. Because I've always had this thing where I always literally feel like it's in Juve's hands, and even Antonio's talking about how we feel going into matches. What Juve are you going to get? The title race is no different, really. It's like I always feel like we have created this culture where the pressure is so intense for all the other rivals that they get in their own. We're always in their heads. I don't care where we are in the standings. Like I feel like they always think about us, and you can tell in interviews. You can tell with other teams' presidents and the way they speak. Like we are in their heads. We're living there. It's rent free, and I can't help but feel that this pressure, as it surmounts, if Juve just hangs in there, stays close, and keeps that fight going. And what I think, again, is just so unfortunate is that we went through January almost flawless. The match against Merda was a complete blackout. We also had, the Fiorentina match. That was before. That was just a complete drop off, a huge letdown. You have the early draws. You have the first match against Lazio where we literally made a mess of it at the bitter end. You have that one in the bag. Those are points. That a couple draws to some lower table sides. And then you have the Fiorentina letdown and the Merda blackout. Those are so frustrating. When you get to a match where you draw Verona away and it's actually a decent match, a very, very hard-fought match, that match doesn't upset me as much as these ones prior. Like when you're holding a 1-0 lead against Lazio and it's, injury time, you got to see that one through. You just absolutely have to see that one through. And the guys really let all of us down on that one because, we could talk about obviously Dybala's dribbling error at the side there, but everything that unfolded after that was so unlike Juve. And that's kind of the reality, is that certain things that we've come to take for granted are no longer there, and now it feels a little bit differently. But I wrote a piece, my weekly column for Bianconeri Zone, and I spoke to it and I said, that latest round of injuries really killed that momentum and that feeling like, hey, we'll push through. It was starting to click. It was starting to gel. You have a strong January, and then it's just like, boom, he's out. Boom, he's out. And Artur, it's key guys too.
Yeah, of course.
If you're going into matches where you literally have one sub that is from your main team list. The rest are U23s. If you're not getting it done with your starting 11, that's tough in Serie A. That is very, very tough in Serie A. You have to have that impact. And if you look at the last match, what happened? He makes a double sub. You get Bernardeschi, you get Morata in there, and all of a sudden the game shifts.
Yeah,
you have to have options sometimes, and you have to be able. So even while we criticize Pirlo at times for his in-game management, when he's in a scenario like that, his hands are tied anyways.
Yeah.
And it's a tough one. It's a tough spot to be in. I really feel for him, but I think like overall, and it's interesting because Mirko Di Natale has come out and he said that because of course media is just an uproar all the time, and it's always coaches, and we have this culture of just football in general where they just fire managers. I don't want to see Juve become that. And it's nice to hear Mirko Di Natale. Obviously, you take it with a grain of salt because the last two guys had the vote of confidence as well, but we saw what happened. But he says that Juventus is committed to him, and that regardless of outcomes, he's going to be there because they believe in this shift or whatnot. And I think it's the right call. And I want to ask you guys: do you feel it's the right call? I feel it is. So regardless of whether it's just speculation or whatever, we're just going to talk hypothetically.
Yeah.
Do you think it's the right call to keep him around, you guys?
Jonathan, you go. You take this one.
Yeah, I'm going to have to sign off in a sec.
Okay.
Got to work. No, I was just going to say, I think this is you got to give him a chance. It's a long-term project for me. I think last summer you can't read too much into the side that's been assembled for this year because of COVID, there was such a quick turnaround between seasons. So I think, he's got to have the summer window. He's got to be given a chance next season. And I think if you look at this season, it's still the Italian Cup. See what happens. The league for me is all but done unless something miraculous happens. The Italian, see if he can pick up the Italian Cup, even if it's not a great honor to win. Champions League, so we'll get with that. Hopefully, turn it around on Tuesday or Wednesday, whichever day it is, and give him a summer window to get the players he needs in, and then see where we're at Christmas. I think he needs time. Chopping and changing is not the way forward, and I think the tradition of the club is not to chop and change. They don't sack managers. It just doesn't happen. I know Sarri went, but I never thought he was the right fit for the club, even if he won the league. There was too much history there, bad blood. But I think you've got to give him time. It's his first job. You've got to give him the tools to do the job and see after summer. Hopefully, we'll get proper summer break and back in September, August for the new season and see where we're at with that. But I think he needs a summer to rebuild. There's a lot of work needs doing on this squad. Especially rumors of Chiellini retiring are right. It's a project. It's a long-term project. It's not a quick fix this because it's a change of. It's going from one era to the next era. The Buffon hasn't got much longer. I wouldn't think Chiellini, Bonucci. De Ligt is the future, and they're going to have to build a young side around players like him. And I think you just got to give him time.
Absolutely.
I'm going to have to go. I'm so sorry.
Jonathan, it's all right. Thanks for joining. Everybody, Golazzo, the book by Jonathan Gray. Look it up. It's on Amazon UK and whatnot, and definitely check it out. Jonathan, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm sure we'll see you again.
Nice to meet you, Antonio.
And you too, buddy.
Catch up soon. Take care.
Take care. You betcha. All right, and we'll continue on here because we're wrapping up. We're getting ready, predictions and whatnot. We've heard predictions. Antonio thinking we'll edge it out, and we'll see some predictions coming in here with Ken coming in 1-0. He's calling McKennie to score the winner. Then we have Mr. Positivity himself, AJ, coming in with 2-1 Lazio victory. I'm becoming accustomed to AJ's predictions here. For me, Antonio, you and I, we discussed prior to this show and going live. I think it's going to be It's going to be a tough one. I think regardless of some of these question marks in the lineup, this fixture has been so tough. Lazio plays us incredibly well, especially over the past few seasons. I think it's going to be very, very tight. I do think there will be some goals. My gut was telling me it would either be a 2-1 victory for Juve or a 2-2 draw. And honestly, I'm so torn. I don't even want to commit to something because I know it's just gonna be so tough. But like my initial gut reaction was I could see this being a draw, a 2-2 draw. And I know that that's gonna be this big thing for many, and probably end the race for sure in many people's hearts and minds, or whatnot, or maybe their minds. But the heart keeps telling you the fight's there and whatnot. But
of course,
this is massive. This is a massive one. They've got to really, they have to pull the 3 points. Every match now has really become that do or die, right? So it's gonna be very, very interesting. I know AJ has just posted that Football Italia is saying Cristiano might be out tonight. We're hearing reports that he is injured and not in the squad. So that would be absolutely catastrophic if he can't go, because we know that Morata is not still 100%, obviously, to the point where he can't even, he's probably going to just be seeing cameos or whatnot. So now, again, we go back to Pirlo, and Pirlo being handcuffed. This is that's an interesting. What would you do in that scenario? So now all of a sudden Ronaldo can't go. I mean, you're asking for more out of Morata than you could possibly handle at this particular moment in time. I don't know his true 100% condition or whatnot, but if he was set to get just a cameo, or maybe Pirlo was trying to keep him as some type of impact guy off the bench. I'm not really sure. Chiesa, do you go Chiesa up top? The thing with me is I'm not completely sold on Kulusevski up top, and he was going to be the guy playing up top with Ronaldo. So now all of a sudden, if we have a little bit more dependence on Kulusevski, I'm not feeling 100% confident in that.
Absolutely.
So that's quite interesting. I think you have to look at finding a way to get Chiesa up top. If that's the situation, if Ronaldo's up, there's no other answer for me. You have to get Chiesa as one of the guys up top. And maybe, just maybe, you change the shape and Kulusevski can be like a fourth mid, a little bit higher than 3, and maybe use Bernardeschi on one side, Chiesa on the other, and you make like a false 9 kind of setup. That's a possibility. That's a tough one. I sure hope that report is false.
It generally wouldn't surprise me if that is. If it's true, the way things are going this year, it wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me. It's become comedy in terms of injuries and everything. Like, there's nothing you can do now but laugh. It's so incredibly frustrating. If Ronaldo's out, I say find a way to slide Cuadrado one position further. And get Chiesa up top. So for me, if a guy like Bonucci can only give you 60 minutes, you get him in there, slide Danilo to the right side, Cuadrado ahead of him, make Chiesa up top. Chiesa, Kulusevski. For me, that's the best answer if Morata is not capable to even give you that. And I could even make the argument that if a guy's able to give you a 60-minute at the back, you can even make the argument that it would be okay to put Danilo, Cuadrado on a right, get Chiesa up top with Ronaldo. If Ronaldo can go, if he can't go, Morata and Chiesa up top, Cuadrado, Danilo on the right. If Bonucci is able to give you 60 minutes, even if De Ligt is able to give you 60 minutes. What do you think in terms of that, Antonio, as we wrap up here?
It's just touching on what Jonathan mentioned before you to run away, and obviously what you'd followed up with there. I mean, I appreciate everybody's got an opinion. That's the way the world works, and that's the way what makes us all different. And as I say, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But I think it's a fine line between being optimistic and realistic. I think this season, the majority, I hope, would be realistic to admit it's just one of those. It's just one of those years. It's just been. Pirlo has to improvise every single day. I mean that because obviously we only see the games, we don't see the training sessions. He's having to improvise even in training sessions because obviously there's injuries happening all the time. Now we've obviously got Bentancur with COVID, and if this turns out to be true, what AJ had mentioned about Ronaldo, he finds himself again 4 or 5 hours before a big game, having to change his formation again. So how can we blame? How can we blame this guy? I mean, it blows my mind, to be honest with you. If Pirlo had a full squad the full year, had all his big hitters, he had tons of selection, tons of choices, options coming off the bench, and he messed it up, then you could obviously the way you could argue that he's not the man for the job, but he's, as I said, he's having to improvise all the time. It's just every single time.
And that's why I say it's just, for me, I can't see walking away from the guy as being the answer immediately. I still just don't think it's definitive. I don't think it's been definitive because of all these circumstances. I quickly can touch on some of these predictions. Alex saying 3-2 Juve. Do not ask me how we scored 3 goals. AJ, Mr. Positivity, after this news, I'm changing my prediction to 0-3 Lazio. Jesus. Kulu and Bernardeschi up top from Alex. David saying, we can't score 3 goals when Ronaldo... we can't score 3 goals when Ronaldo has to score 2. This is interesting. You know, I hope that the report is false. But this just I want to piggyback on what you were saying, Antonio. It's a battle between the mind and the heart when it comes to Juventus this season. I kind of summarized it the best I could. It was a late night last night when I was writing my column because, just so many mixed emotions. But you watch the game, and you watch the game the first time with your heart. Yeah. And that's where you get fired up. That's where the reactions come from. It's emotion. And then you watch it the second time, and you watch it with your mind. Right now, because the season's still going, we're following it with our heart. And it's hard to take a look at that perspective sometimes and see the bigger picture. But, it's absolutely crazy to expect such high expectations with such a depleted list. And even at that, when the guys are in there, we can have serious discussions about the quality and the roles especially. I think we're missing guys that give you certain elements. So I think even as far as a team building phase, things could have been stronger. But it's been a battle. It's been one of those battles all season where my mind is agreeing with Jonathan and what he was saying and saying that you know what, it just hasn't felt like it's going to be that year. My heart is what's telling me it ain't over and anything can happen, But I think, if we realistically look at things, it just hasn't been meant to be. We've had so many lifelines, and Juventus has never needed this many lifelines,
Exactly.
If you're starting to follow matches where some of our rivals are playing, the relegation risking sides, and we're hoping for results there, that kind of tells you a good sign of where we stand. We need too much help. I know that there's a Lazio verdict coming out in about a week's time. I know that there's a match replay against Napoli. That's our game in hand and whatnot. But again, how can we ask for the consistency if we can't if we can't consistently field our strongest lineup? It's just realistically, in our heart of hearts, we want to believe that it's next man up and you can just go in, plug and play. We have a good enough roster. But the truth is, for me, and I've been saying it for weeks now, outside of our strongest 11, there's quite a drop there. And now we're beyond our strongest 11. We're beyond that. We're even, our fill-ins are hurt or injured, or like I said, even guys in the lineup aren't 100%. And this is just this is where you separate your heart from all the success we've had in the past 10 years, and you start looking at it with your mind and say, this is realistically where we probably should be in the table. And it's actually kind of, in some way, for me, impressive that we're actually in there with a first-time manager. All of the circumstances we faced. I mean, when he was closest, and I stress this again in my article, and I've been stressing on the podcast lately, when he was as close to possible to fully fit, we went on an incredible run in January. It wasn't very long ago that we were simply just waiting for Dybala. And in the matter of a week and a half, it turned into Chiellini, Quadrado, Bonucci, Artur, Morata ill, Kulusevski ill, McKennie with a hip. Like, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So I think, it's that battle of heart and mind. And today, as many of the games take place, I battle that, and I battled that in my prediction. The mind's telling me probably get ready for a draw. The heart wants me to believe that we'll edge it out. By one goal.
I think if you'd asked the most optimistic Juventus fan before, if you could time travel back to the start of the year, and somebody would tell you, going to win the Supercoppa, going to be in the final of the Italian Cup, you're going to be in a second leg, get into Porto, potentially get into a quarter final, and you're still fighting for Scudetto, but potentially you're going to finish runner up. I would take it. 100% I would take it. Based on the circumstances we're living just now with COVID, reoccurring injuries, new injuries happening every day, new manager. I mean, I would 100% accept it. There'd be no argument for me. I mean, we need to be realistic.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There would be no argument from me either, and that's why I say in reality, logically looking at things, I think Pirlo has done well. Does he have things to work on? Absolutely, he does. But the players need to do a little bit of a gut check as well. In terms of Lazio, I know Lazio will be without Lazzari. They're a little bit makeshift at the back at the moment. Hopefully we can exploit it again. The Ronaldo news, big, very big. We gotta get him. We gotta get him in that lineup with Patrick and Hoyt for Lazio. We have to kind of exploit that. Obviously, Marusic and Acerbi will be in the fold, but there's some potential to do a bit of damage there with some of those struggling outsiders there. So, it'll be interesting. It's going to be a tough one. I can tell you that 100% because this fixture's been a nightmare for recent years. The final question: who is the leading goal scorer in the history of this fixture? Antonio, do you want to take a stab at it?
Alberto, you should know me better. I'm hopeless when it comes to these things. I don't think I've got any. I'm going to have a stab at Del Piero, but I'm probably wrong.
It is Del Piero.
You're joking. That was a first
there you
one.
go.
Everything.
Alessandro Del Piero is the leading goal scorer in the history of this fixture with 14 goals. Nice. 14 goals. Separates him from next by 3 goals. And of course, the video coming out as of late, that last one with that free kick winner. Fantastic moment. The crowd, the roar, the reactions. What an amazing time. And, if we can take back and just, regardless of what happens this season, start really thinking about this and what we've achieved, I guarantee you for the rest of my time, I'll probably never see anything like that again. No. So one way or another, enjoy it. enjoy the match today, regardless of what happens. Enjoy the young players that we have, the up and coming, because one of the things that came out with the report for Pirlo, and one of the things I loved reading in Lichtsteiner's interpretation and his perspective of Pirlo is that the future looks bright. And he says if Pirlo doesn't get the job done, he has no doubts that he'll be able to do it next season or possibly the one after, because he really sees a good, solid project and a nice shift towards a strong future. And he could see that backed with some of the acquisitions Juventus is making and looking to make. So just enjoy everything. We cannot win it every year. And this is, again, the heart battling the mind. The heart says, yes, we can do it every year. We can do it every year. But to believe that it will happen every year, again, your mind has to kick in and realize that we had incredible squads through amazing eras that weren't able to win Scudettos. It's part of it. We cannot win every time, but enjoy the ride, okay? And make sure you strap on your seatbelts. This one's going to be a bumpy one today. I think it's going to be a tough match. But Antonio, as always, an absolute pleasure. Jonathan was a great guest as well, joining us for the amount of time he was allotted, and he will be back as well. Antonio, of course, being back. I'd like to say that I'm excited to introduce Antonio, as well as Colin, as well as Lewis, Daniel Lucci, Luca Natale, Erica Cernio Gibbs, and Francisco, all part of Team All Juve Cast. All right, so making a bit of a shift to get common guests in here. What does this mean for any and all Juventini that want to take part in shows? It doesn't change anything, okay? You're still all more than welcome to jump aboard on any pre-match live at Fives and podcasts, all right? But what we're going to do is, again, just build a team, have a lot of fun, and try to basically always make sure there's contrast in opinions and that we can do the best to cover all opinions out there. All right, so welcome aboard, Antonio. Welcome aboard to all the other guys. A lot of fun, exciting stuff planned, and I'm going to just close off with a couple shows to keep your eyes open for, and that's going to be Mirko Di Natale, okay, who's actually a very, very reliable source in regards to Juventus news and mercados. He's actually a sleeper, okay? This guy, just do not the following and stuff is all coming. People are starting to catch on with Mirko Di Natale, but he's absolutely fantastic and very, very reliable. We're going to have a live session with him, so you don't get this opportunity with him very often, okay? That's going to be a week today, okay, again at 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. He's not strong in English, and I understand, and I can speak Italian, not strong enough for a podcast, okay, but I'm going to have Rocco, who was my first time ever guest on the podcast, who wants to take part, and he's going to translate. So you guys will have an opportunity to ask a very reliable source regarding Juventus, questions about the future mercado, questions about past deals. And I know that now there's even talks about Milinkovic-Savic and his price drop. We can start getting some hints at if Juve's gonna maybe take a stab at that. How strong is this deal with Locatelli? Is it actually set in stone? Is there a price there? So we're going to ask them all questions. The Dybala situation, Ronaldo's extension. Make sure you tune into that one. And then the week following that, on Saturday the 20th, we're going to have a 2-on-2 hot takes debate, and that's going to be awesome. And we have three strong topics to talk about. So this is just part of the fun and the new team aspect that we're going to introduce to all UVCast. So stay tuned. Thanks everybody who joined the live. Enjoy the match today. Hopefully the guys get it done. Antonio, as always, absolute pleasure. Welcome aboard again. And everybody, Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Let's get that W tonight, all right? We'll talk to you tomorrow for the post-match podcast. And actually, if you're, I almost forgot. How can I forget? We're live streaming the match. We got to watch along. We got to watch along for this one. So Omar, Antonio, if he's available, Colin will be in there as well. If you don't like ESPN, if you don't like the zone, if you don't like who your commentators are, listen to us. We might even be having a couple beers, share some laughs with us.
Hell yeah.
Let's watch that and share the reactions, everybody, and hopefully we have goals to celebrate. If it's not Ronaldo, I don't really care who it is. Let's just get those goals. Let's get the job done, baby. Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Ciao.